Hello. I wanted to do a video on the current status of sort of where Blue Steel ranks sort of in set six and like if you'd want to play it and if you're not. And the video sort of is just trying to give the cold, hard facts of the situation. I'm trying to say as not as serious as I am because I'm just talking about a Disney card game, but I want to talk about where the deck's sort of at and sort of even in the past set we didn't particularly get much of upgrades to the deck, and also what I want to say this is I'd like to be honest about the deck, and I'd like people to have honest opinions about it. I'm never really quitting it. I really love doing this channel and stuff like that, and getting to talk about the deck. So I'm not quitting it, but I'm gonna definitely be honest about it. So yeah, in set five we didn't really get any upgrades. We were even trying like older cards for a little bit, like Kronk and stuff like that, to try and counter out the upgrades that other decks were getting. Like the Daisy card was a big problem for us in set five, and we've sort of come around to how we play against it, and we just accept they have this quite power crept card. And in this set, the same thing's happened again. It's just with Genie has been added, and all the purple decks get to utilize it. And there's a lot more purple decks than there's just the one amber deck that really scares us. And we didn't really get any appropriate answers, and we're quite a reactive deck. What we like to do is react to the things, and then play a Tamatoa or an Aerial on dime tap, or gain law with McDuck Manners or anything like that. We have our win con already locked in, and it's a pretty strong win con, gaining lots of law very quickly. But we just basically needed steel cards that could counteract a one drop Daisy, which we still don't have. It's very hard for us to kill a one drop because four is a magic number. The only real answer we could add is a card like Along Came Zeus, and that's quite overkill for what we're trying to achieve. And the Genie got added as well, and we tried to play a card like Zeus into that. A lot of green decks, the green purple deck will be the one utilizing Genie a lot better, but would be able to help us in the red purple and the purple still one. But the issue is we don't particularly have appropriate answers for characters that are fairly cheap and have 4 health. And to be honest with you, I've found the issue was before Daisy was released as well. I think Sisu as well was also noted as an issue. I mean, we were playing an Argus, which was a 4-1, just so we could run it into it, and kill it a lot of the time. So, we've had this problem with 4 health characters for a while, and we used to be the original version of Blue Steel, way before we saw Sisu Flynn and stuff like that, so probably set 1 to set 3. We had a very good combo of make sing grab your swords and play Tinkerbell, and we could do 3 damage board wide. And at that point, the amount of stuff they had on board, we technically we most often not answer their entire board, have a Cogsworth sing it, and then play a Tinkerbell, and you should win the board back. But we can't do that anymore because everything has 4 health, and like health is just getting higher, and we're not getting more answers for it. Also, as well, the deck I think that's changed a lot is I don't agree that Whole New World needs to be in the list anymore. I think if you work towards clearing an entire board and then you want to play Whole New World, all you really do is just wheel them into getting more 4 health characters to put on the board, or stronger characters. Even they've got a Pete as well that they could just flood and play a Pete, and then you can't really interact with it either. So I think Whole New World also has came out of the list in my opinion. So yeah, the list has changed a lot. We haven't really got many upgrades. I think you can still, of course, still play it. It's still a strong deck. I think the Cheater version of the deck is very strong. This version I sort of tend to play a lot. We still can do a lot of things in the meta. We're very underestimated as well, so a lot of people don't practice into us. And I think the deck still has like, quite a lot of legs, but yeah, we do have that problem with 4 health characters. Not a lot of our wins are going to be easy wins. And I've done a little quick like meta table of where I think the meta's at. Of course, a little bit more biased to Blue Steel, and also I think it's how you play Blue Steel. I think people can play it to an A tier level deck, but that doesn't make it. I guess that doesn't make it an A tier level deck. I literally made this very quickly, by the way, just to do a rough estimate. So I'm sorry, everyone. I put in B tier. Your decks are probably better than that. I'm really sorry. Your decks are probably better than Blue Steel, but I kind of wanted to point things out. So if I'm looking at it objectively into an open field, green purple is just the cards they have now, the cards they got in this set, with things like the Genie, and they already had a lot of 2 questers to go wide. Even the 1-drop Diablo, I think, is just quite a powerful addition to the deck. So they've just basically got a load of new powerful cards they've got put in the deck, and they all function very well. On top of that, they had to use cards like Go-Go, which allows you to gain lore based on how much damage on another opponent's character. So they get to punish those decks, and that deck just it's very strong. I just think objectively, it's probably the best deck in the game. Of course, you take things into account of meta of people trying to counter it and things like that. But I think objectively, it's probably the best deck in the game. And then I put these other two because red removal rule supreme in steel decks, and if you look at the A tier, they're all basically just steel decks in my opinion. The red removal kind of rules really well here, and also the Sisu that they can utilize in these two decks, the 8 cost Sisu, is a very good answer for the genie and cheaper characters on the board. So I think these two get to basically enjoy being some of the best decks in the game because they get to answer most of the meta. And all of these decks have fun. I mean, Discard probably is an S tier deck and everything like that. It's got so many strong cards in it. Discard's never going to be a bad thing. Amber Steel, I think a brilliant player can basically play that at an S tier level and never has to play a different deck because the high roll potential of it, the lore potential of their entire deck with cards like Daisy and Piglet, it puts it there. And with Purple Steel, they got the Genie and they got a bunch of other cards and they just steal removal so they can answer quite a lot of things. I think they do very well into Green Purple. But where we lack is we can't use the genie. We didn't get the genie. Steel didn't actually get anything new that makes it better. It's just steel is fairly good into a lower to the ground meta, so we sort of still sit along. We can utilize cards like Tinkerbell and Simba because we can afford it with our ink. So I think we still have a good chance. The only issue I find is if we're spending turns to play the Quill and play the Hiram, we tend to lose the board quite hard. And that was fine a few sets ago, where you would objectively go, I'll do a 2 drop on 2 and maybe a hook on 1. And I'll fight the board a little bit, but I'm going to spend the next turn playing Quill to ramp. Then I'm going to draw to recover with the Hiram, or maybe the Whole New World back in the day. And then I'm going to play the Tinkerbell out to board equalize, and you're going to be maybe threatening 9 or 10 lore, but I'm going to be able to win the board. I'm going to win the game. But now with so many aggressive questers, if you were to go say Daisy, play a what's it called, Piglet, a card like that, and then maybe a Lawrence, and then you put a Pluto on top of that to protect it. That's just too much lore too early on, and the recovery is very hard for us to jump back in compared to red blue, where they can jump in with just complete board wipe, which sometimes does the job for them. But for us, throwing the Tinkerbell sometimes isn't going to be enough, and it can be quite the hard fight to win the board back and then set up our own win condition without them just burning over the edge with removal. And that's, like I say again, like the cards I'm mentioning right now that are really good. Tinkerbell, I'm going to say Fire the Can as well. These are just set 1 cards that we're still using. Of course, Red Blue is still using Be Prepared, which is just overall that's overstatedly good card. Just remove everything off the board, so that can't be bad. But yeah, we're struggling. Like I say, if you play something for 4 ink, we don't have really an appropriate answer besides Zeus, which is an uninkable song. That can also be snatched from someone's hand. We need something that's equivalent to Fire the Cannons or Smash that we could run in our deck to answer those cards. Or we need character base to put this character on the board and answer that card, which we don't have. And honestly, with you right now, the only cards I've added from set 6 I think is Sail. So really, again, we're just not getting any new upgrades. But again, the deck is also just functionally pretty good. The Chicha build, I think it's got a good spread into the wide matchup. Yeah, anything that has 4 health is a problem for you, but overall, I think the deck is pretty solid still. But we do fall behind. We didn't get any new toys. We haven't got any new toys for a little while. We don't do anything particularly amazing. We I don't think you play Whole New World anymore as well, so I don't think we can high roll and go over people. So I think we sort of end up being at this. I think for the majority of players, it's a B tier deck, and I think you can pilot it to a low A tier deck. I think that's where it is. The matchups you really want is green steel, in my opinion, and maybe purple steel if they brick the genie. I don't know, but overall, I think the best you can perform the deck at is a low A tier level deck. And that's just the reality of Blue Steel right now. I do not think it's meta busting, it's anything like that. I don't think anyone's going to, besides a Green Steel player, I don't think anyone's going to queue into you and go, oh, well, no, I've got to play against Blue Steel. I think majority of them will be fine with that. Yes, I'm sure the Green Purple and some of these lower to the ground decks, yes, a Green Purple and maybe even RP sometimes is going to hate when you throw a Tinkerbell on the board because it's quite a good board equalizer. But then again, they're going to have evasives and genies and stuff like that, and they're just going to be able to get a massive amount of lore. So I don't think it's the scariest thing in the world once you put a Tinkerbell on the board these days. So yeah, that's my opinion on the deck. We don't have a particularly amazing amount of cards to pick from. Every time a new set comes out, we seem to go and dig very far back into our back catalogue. I mean, people have tried the Imperial Bow out, which I think is set 2, which was kind of cool because it maybe meant we could use the Calhoun, which is a new card, which is the Imperial Bow is buff a character by 2 challenger and give it evasive for the turn. So you could take out the genie with that, and that was an answer, but that's such a clunky, expensive answer. I think you don't bother doing that. If when your opponent plays a genie, your first instinct and first moment of play is I'm gonna need to go find a bow, set it up, and buff my Calhoun. I think that's just a really rough spot to be in. And how many bows do you have to put in the deck to make that work? I just how many times do you have to ink that? It's gonna be useless. you know, um, I just don't think it's the appropriate answer right now. I mean, I still could be out. The jury could still be out on that, but I just think yeah, we have to accept what Genie is and try and if your opponent plays a Genie in or they play a Daisy as well. I'm going to use Amber Steel as well as an example here. If they play these 4 health 2 quested monsters that you can't really answer with efficiently, just try and minimize their lore gain and try and set up your aerials and dimes and stuff like that. That seems to be the appropriate answer right now. Of course, take the Genie or the Daisy removal when you can. Fire the cannons with a grab your swords or a Simba is also going to do the job. But yeah, I'm just rambling on and looking at this tier list, so I'm going to move on to my next slide in a second. But um, yeah, the biggest thing to say is I think at best you can pilot the deck to an A tier, and this is, in my opinion, the Cheech and No Wheel version. But moving on to that, this is a very interesting list, I'd say. With Blue Steel right now, I mean, what's happened, I think, for a lot of players is they just haven't been feeling the same success as they have in previous sets with the list, and maybe they really, really like the color combo, or they really think there's a lot of good things in the color combo. And this deck I saw, and it did really well, it did top 32. For such an unconventional deck as well, like we haven't seen anything that has this playstyle before, and it looks like it's a dock build, but using the Sapphire deck, which we tend to see Amber still using the dock build. And what they'll do is they'll put Dwarf's Mines and they'll put a bunch of locations in. They'll dump their hand out, put the dock out. Sorry, not happy. And then they'll basically just have so many locations that your opponent can't answer them. They'll be getting 3, 4, 5, 6 lore a turn. By the time your opponent has answered it, you probably have got game on board anyway. And they're kind of doing the same thing here with Sapphire still. So this has been very interesting. And I'm sure there's loads of I saw another aggro build as well that used the legendary John Silver. So it looks like people are having some new approaches with it. And I'm sure right now a lot of these lists are being hidden because we haven't really had a big event. We don't have a DLC coming up. We have a last chance qualifier in Paris that's coming up this week. So I'm sure we'll see if any blonde who's playing Blue Steel has got any sort of secret interesting decks will come out as well. But that's also another reason as well. You might be going to your locals with your standard Blue Steel that you've just seen, or you've just net decked mine or someone else's, and getting cooked by someone who's just going 2 genies wide and losing. And yeah, that's because most people probably haven't found the appropriate answer to it yet. But as I say, the game's getting a lot bigger with its card pool. There's a lot more cards to choose from, and we get to try a lot more interesting decks like this. So I'm pretty sure someone's going to cook up something very interesting. And again, this is also the story that Blue Steel happens every time. We think we're down and out, and then like Lamb gets top 8 and uses Merlin's Cottage. So it's a very interesting color combo to always track. But I still go back to my original point with the tier list. We're not topping the thing. No one's ever, besides me, I don't think anyone else is putting Blue Steel at A tier. But yeah. And just to round this video off to say, this is sort of where I'm at on my list. I think, yeah, I really just enjoy the Cheech and No Wheel build. I'm probably going to stick with it. I have tried a few other things as well. Tried the Imperial Bow, Calhoun ramp deck that just, yeah, it wasn't particularly for me. It felt too clunky. It felt like it didn't work half the time, and then one time you get an Imperial Bow buff, kill a Calhoun. They kill the Calhoun and play just a Genie or something, and you lose. So I wasn't particularly impressed with it, and it meant I couldn't play the Cheecher, which the Cheecher for me is the reason why I can still beat red decks. We have gone down to 2 on her, but I still think 2 is fine. Playtest for a little bit, yeah, 2 feels particularly just fine in this deck. Because eventually, if you miss it on 2, you might find it on 6 after the Quill, so you can play her down with the Hiram and still get some more card draw. So yeah, I think 2 is fine, especially as we need the room for Uninkables, and we need the room to put other stuff in the deck. And the interesting thing is Captain Hook with the Smee. The most interesting thing here I found is making Smee not take 1 damage has been really impactful in my games, meaning Smee can trade things and leave left unexerted and either require that they play removal into it, or they run a character into it. And so Smee's been very good for that, and I've been quite enjoying that. Literally, it's the Captain Hook making sure he doesn't take 1 damage. I mean, him by himself is good. You got 6 damage to throw out there. Has been very nice, and it's yeah. Besides that, there hasn't been much of a difference here. I just didn't like that I'm losing on the draw by double Merfolk from green purple, so I started putting Captain Hook in the list to change things up. Besides that, Sail, absolutely, as much as I've just doomsayed Sail and said Sail was bad, I really like Sail now. It just makes the deck smoother. It just filters more. There's only 14 uninkables, and like if two of your uninkables are cheat you and a fire the cannons, and you've used them by turn three, there's only 12 uninkables in the deck now. So yeah, I just really, and if you draw, you're basically going to draw an inkable that you were going to draw that turn anyway. So the next turn you might draw an inkable. So yeah, keeping this sort of structure and the shell of the deck the same. Two Hades, two Simba answers a lot of the meta. Throw some Tinkerballs out there, get some steel removal in there, dime and finish your games. But this is exactly where I'm at, and I'm sort of enjoying it. Like I say, really enjoy Blue Steel, but I'm not gonna lie to anyone and say we're like S tier cracked. I mean, I think I'm even being quite gracious by putting us in an A tier, low A tier, to be honest with you. But yeah, I hope that doesn't upset anyone, doesn't crush any dreams. I'm just trying to be realistic with where Blue Steel's at. I'm definitely gonna keep playing it. I definitely think you can win events, you can win store champs with it. I definitely think it's got a good shot in the meta. But yeah, thank you for that rambling, and thank you for listening.